Today's episode of Filmmaker U is brought to you by our sponsors OWC. Go to owcdigital.com for all your filmmaking and computer needs. And it's also brought to you by our other sponsors, AJA. Make sure to check out aja.com so that you can see how they can help you in your post-production needs. Hi, I'm Gordon Raquel from Filmmaker U. At Filmmaker U, we create courses for film professionals to deepen and diversify your existing skill set. You can learn more at filmmakeru.com, or of course, follow us on Twitter at filmmaker_u. Every week, we interview a film professional to discuss their work, and this week I'm joined by costume designer Dawn Ritz, whose work includes Paradise City, Body Brokers, and many, many other great projects. Welcome to the show, Dawn.
Hi, thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Yeah, well, I do want to talk to you about the Ozzy Osbourne NFL opener halftime performance. How did you get involved with that?
Well, it was really special moment. I was just wrapping up a project with Nas, the rapper, not Little Nas, but the Nas.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'd been back to back to back. And then, I was on a commercial. They're all kind of blurring together here. So it was like that I was doing a commercial with Jason Alexander from Seinfeld.
Mm-hmm.
And literally like just wrapping that day. And I just got a phone call that was like, hey, would you happen to be available? And I was like, well, I'm just turning in stuff today. Yeah, this is like perfect timing. I said, well, what is it? And they're like, oh, well, Ozzy. And I was like, oh, cool. So they're like, yeah, your phone might ring in like an hour. And so I was like, just, working on getting everything wrapped up. And I got the call, and then I didn't know exactly what was the context, because it can be so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were like, oh, well, the Rams. And I'm a really big football fan. So I said, oh, cool. Like SoFi Stadium. And they're like, yeah, like halftime. And I'm like, wow, this is so cool. I'm so happy the NFL is doing this right,
Mm-hmm.
and what a great way to open up the season as Super Bowl winners. And because the show was for what was it, Super Bowl, that was like a really good halftime, with Dre and Eminem and stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really cool that the NFL is going to open this with Ozzy. And obviously we all know who Ozzy Osbourne is, and such an honor and a pleasure to get to costume design that performance.
I'm going to interrupt this interview for 1 second. We want to thank pixelview, one of our sponsors. They're a streaming solution for filmmakers. pixelview lets you stream your work to remote clients for easy collaboration, and it works with both on-set teams and post-production teams. With built-in video chat, you can discuss and make changes in real time and stream directly from your editing software. Or you can use the hardware encoder to stream from DaVinci Resolve or the camera on set. See the promo code and the link in the video description below. Now back to the show. What was your approach to creating the design for this?
Well, the approach to creating the design was very, everything flowed really effortlessly.
Mm-hmm.
Sharon had a vision, and so I got to look at a variety of pieces of his stuff. And the really cool thing is that for me as a costume designer, my specialty, there's so many different ranges that we take in different approaches, but I should say it's definitely a specialty in respects to one of my favorite things to do is to build custom pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the really great things about, iconic artists is that they only wear custom pieces. And, going through, as I did some research through the history of Ozzy and looking at all of his costumes along the way, it's really a costume designer's dream, to get to build a piece, custom for him. So definitely Sharon had a vision, and I got to see previous pieces. And one of the really special magical things was the elements and the notes of making this costume special for this performance,
Mm-hmm.
And so incorporating elements like it's the Rams, it's their home game, and, using the Rams blue. And at first it was like, we were actually going to go in a different direction. And then it started piecing together with the notes that Sharon had given me. And then, you know, and the note that she was like, oh, well, it'd be really cool if it was Rams blue. And once we put it together, it really actually like elevated it uniquely to its own, and something that I hadn't seen previously done with Ozzy before either. So I really feel like all of the like elements of this project and this performance, you know, it definitely was collaborative. Like he has his visions, you know, he's definitely, you can't change a legend, and I'm not here to, you know, it was definitely an approach of like gathering the information and then putting something together and then being open and receptive to notes, you know, and also me, like I listen to the artist too. I'm not here to change anybody. But like, getting an idea, and then that idea is like better, and then that idea inspired this idea, and it just, you know, it collectively grew into its own piece.
So you mentioned that it, you know, when you were going through the history of Ozzy Osbourne's performances, that it was like a dream sort of gig. What was it about his history in costume designing, or like the costumes he's chosen, that, or the wardrobe, I guess, he's chosen, that made it a dream?
Well, when I started looking through the history, I noticed, well, here's actually a really, really special story. As I was reflecting, once we got through this job, a couple years ago, my work that I did with another artist, Sid in Slipknot, his costumes got asked to be put up into the Hard Rock in London. So the very first ever original Hard Rock was the Hard Rock London. But then they were opening up a second location in London called the Piccadilly Circus, and they asked for his costume to be up there. And I remember, you know, we had traveled over there, and it was a whole grand opening event. And I got to walk through the history of the Hard Rock and the different costumes. So I remember that I was taking some pictures, and I was like, wow, this is such an honor to have my designs be next to Ozzy Osbourne's and Jimi Hendrix and Elton John, you know, and it was really a special moment for me in life as a costume designer, you know. And I remember looking at Ozzy's costume that's on display in the original Hard Rock. It's, I believe that one's at the Hard Rock Hotel, you know, that's the theme of what they do. And I remember thinking, this is just magical, like, wow, you know. And I feel like, there's artists that are leaders and there's artists that are followers, and that's okay, right? Because like it's the diversity of what makes this world go round. But Ozzy's definitely like he's a leader and an inventor and a creator, you know. And so some of the costumes, as I looked through the history, were very elaborate, you know. And sometimes in my experience and through my journey with working with a variety of different artists, you know, from pop to rock to country, you know, I did Glen Campbell for his final tour run, which that was really great. He's another legend too, you know, and really learning the history there. And then there's new artists, you know. I remember when I worked with Ariana Grande, and she was just, you know, she was known as an actress, but she was crossing over into her music. And we did this fun, like Tim Burton theme, you know, costume. And it was just so much fun. And it's, you know, there's different avenues and journeys. And now like Ariana is like, she's very established as a singer, and she has her niches, you know, and it's the journey of an artist and finding their way. Where I feel like with somebody like with Ozzy, you know, it's like sometimes I look at the costumes that he's worn previously, and they're so elaborate, but there's other times where I saw that he took the stage, and it's just like, it's a cool t-shirt and some vintage jeans, and, you know, but him as a performer, he defines, you know, through his music and through his actions and his delivery, he himself is a creative genius, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. What I saw with him is it didn't really matter what he wore. He's going to deliver vocally and presence wise, and also bringing in that iconic energy, you know, that he is. So I felt that with this, it was so awesome to get to create more of the the storytelling of this performance, and getting to do something fun and elaborate, and not have the perimeters of, sometimes there's political, you know, people that get involved that are like, want to kind of err on the side of caution or be safe, you know. And this was definitely an open platform of expressing creativity and originality.
Interesting. Well, and just because, like you said, he delivers. When I watched the video, I was like, wow, he's still got, like, he still sounds like you know how usually when I hear singers get older, they start to sound different, and he still sounds great. He sounds. Now there's one thing you mentioned in there that I just want to ask about. You talked about doing Slipknot's costumes. Now, were these the jumpsuits that they do in the live performances?
Yes. Yeah.
So you created those? Wow, those are iconic.
Oh, they are iconic. It's actually a really special story. They've been a really big part of my story, and ironically, I'm going to see them perform tonight. They just released their new record.
Yeah.
And and so, you know, they're like family for me,
Mm-hmm.
and have really taken me under their wings creatively. Like, we've known each other before I've ever even done this job. I've always been like a creative person. And Clown is he's like the art director in the band. And so he, you know, I want to definitely give the respect, hopefully, of, you know, they had this vision, and their jumpsuits are their uniforms, you know, and it's definitely how their fans identify with them. And then the mask, you know, so each album they do something special for that album. And I love the idea too about, you know, it's really about the music. And I like, well, as a costume designer, not just like, I love that they put the emphasis into the costume as well too. And I feel like the audience feeds off that and feels that, and has become very familiar with that, you know, throughout time. But yeah, it was really special. The first tour that I ever designed for them, I was working on a movie. It was the very first movie I ever costume designed, called The Devil's Carnival. And Clown from Slipknot, he's number 6. He was cast in the movie. Yeah. And so we were doing night shoots, and we were just talking and catching up. And when we took our first initial call for the movie, I told the director, don't tell him my name. Just say the costume designer needs to have a talk with you, because I want to get his full, effortless, like organic conversation naturally for it to flow. Right. Mm-hmm. So we had this great conversation. It's probably like half an hour to an hour long, talking about the character and bouncing off ideas with each other about the costume. And after I hung up, about 15 minutes later, I get a text, and he said, "Oh, I thought your voice sounded familiar." He said, "Hey, you." And he was able to connect the dots that it was me. But this was our, you know, like, we'd known each other previous in life. Yeah. This was our first time connecting professionally. And when we were doing the movie, you know, sadly, one of their band members had passed, Paul. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Paul was somebody who was like a really dear friend for me, and was very supportive and, you know, of me on my journey. And when I had this vision, I got to dress him and his wife before he passed, when they were nominated. I believe it was like an MTV award, you know. And so after the movie wrapped, I get this surprise call that says, "Hey, you know, they're doing a tour, and it's a in memory of Paul tour. Mm-hmm. And Slipknot would like to ask if you would design the costumes for this tour, because, you know, this is probably what he would have wanted." And so I did. I got to, you know, work together with each one of them and follow learn all of the outlines, you know, of what they had created. And over time, you know, Sid and I have continued to work together and create these new, you know, I don't know how to really describe it, because they have so many amazing, endless ideas. It's mm-hmm. literally like jumping in a kid in a toy store. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. With creating art. And so it's like, I'll get information of like, oh, something with a hood. And then, we just start putting stuff together and do the fittings and put it, and then deliver it. And now it's really cool too, because the audience has really, it's a thing that they look forward to, is what's going to be the new costume.
Do you find it like almost more freeing to work on music videos, because you'll go from something like Slipknot or tours to something like Ozzy to Ariana Grande? It's sort of like a wider sort of net of styles and approaches. Do you find it more freeing, or do you prefer to work on features?
I'm in a place now where I actually do really prefer to work on features. I really do love the scripts, and I love narrative and costume design in respects to telling a story. I love working with my team, and a crew, and getting to create and develop with the director, and then do the fittings with the actors. Working with the producers as well too is extremely important, because we do have budgets, and everybody on the production has a job to do, so it really it does become like a film family. And I love the whole process, and I love the journey, and I love, I love like when we get through it and when it comes out and it comes on film, and seeing it all come together, and remembering going back to that first day that I read the script, and it was all just an imagination of ideas, So, but I will say, for me, it was my beginning days definitely was music, and so like now, if I look at like the artists that I've been working with, it's been longevity. It's been so many years. So I'm not going to say, oh, I'm no longer doing this. I do this with the artists that I work with, like, for example, tomorrow I'm going to a baby shower, with one of my friends and clients. And it's like so beautiful to see and to celebrate these moments in life, where this is a family, it's a work family. And I'm like on this journey, I'm making baby clothes right now, for his child to be, and for his his lady, and, and that's really exciting. And I'm just so happy. And I remember as I'm picking out fabrics yesterday, it's like, wow, this is like a really special moment of life, so I feel like I'm building my own story in respects to, I'm very grateful that I get to have, in a way, I do a little bit of it all. I found my passion. I'm focused on movies, but it's like at the same token too, it is part of my story and my world, where the artists that we've started together, we're still together on this journey, So I will say, I think for the current, place, I'm a bit more, I don't want to be like, oh, I'm more selective. It's not like that at all. It's always an honor and a joy. Like, when I just got the call this past, a little bit ago about to work with Nas, I was like, wow, like, yeah, that was like such a great experience. And he's such a master at his craft. And I really respect, so I think what I try to do is really focus on a like energy. And I know if I can help accelerate, and we can, we can push each other creatively, I'm ready to take that journey, and always keep an open door, for the newness in the future too, because there's, I think that opportunities are endless.
Now, you worked on American Crime Versace, if I'm not mistaken. Were you nervous about touching Versace's iconic, because he's so famous for like the way he dressed and everything like that? Were you guys nervous about that, or were you guys more excited about it?
Well, I came on as so Lou Eyrich is she's Ryan Murphy's like producer and costume designer, and her and I had worked together previously in the past. She's one of my favorite people. So anytime that I get that opportunity, she's just an elite, creative and professional person. It's always an honor and always a joy. It's a lot of hard work, and I jumped in and I could definitely feel the pressure, I think that also one of the great joys though, too, with working with, anybody on any Ryan Murphy production, the bar is really high, and that bar does not change. The bar will stay where it's at, and the level of expectations and for what's going to be delivered on camera is there. regardless of like, when things change and TV goes so fast. And even though it's like Versace, there's still a budget, so it's, we can't just like, I think any of us wish that there's endless, but that's part of the magic of what we do, is that it is about finding ways of like, how do we, pull together for all these characters on this budget in this amount of time and still deliver at this level of a bar, so I'm really grateful for that opportunity to be part of that team on that job. The job ended up getting an Emmy in costume design, and I know that it, just from being a part of the team, it was definitely well deserved, and I know how hard everybody worked and the pressures and and the script, it was really it was a really interesting script per se, but yeah, I mean, it's again, it's like really, I do believe like hard work really does pay off, hard work, dedication, and all of that.
Now, when I was going through your bio, it talks about, working in art as well as experimental projects. Can you elaborate on that? Because I'm not sure what your work is in that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just recently, one of a really special moment in my life was that Alexander McQueen is one of my favorite designers. I love Vivienne Westwood too, which shout out, I'm wearing her shirt. But so with Alexander McQueen, I watched the documentary and I got really inspired, and I really feel like that's, if anybody hasn't seen it and wants to know more about, the process and the creative process, where an artist like him, it wasn't just about fashion. It really is about a deeper level of understanding art and storytelling and using different fabrics. Like, for example, he used like tablecloths, and he would take like real cars and run over fabrics to get different textures, So it's a deeper depth of going into the art of, in the history of creating something through a story and creating a work of that's timeless and a masterpiece, So I when I was in London for the Hard Rock ceremony and the costumes and stuff, it was London Fashion Week, and I got to meet Gary McQueen, which is his nephew, that also was the textile designer for the men's line for the Alexander McQueen when he was still alive. He was hired by Alexander, and that was his first job in fashion. He's so humble, and I'm like, wow, that's awesome. That's your first job in fashion, But Gary is like this amazing artist, and he's gotten into doing what I see is it's right now the future of fashion. It's digital fashion, and so him and I have remained as friends, friendship and work colleagues, and we've worked together with some things along the way. So I incorporate all of this into my work, and then just this year I got a call from his representation if I wanted to be involved with some of the digital stuff that they're doing with photographers, and and it's I know that he just released, this was like a week ago with Fashion Week, his whole presentation through the VA Museum in London. And this is really the future of art. So it's really interesting for me because I try not to think of myself too much, but when I take a pause and I sit down and I reflect, I'm a world traveler. Like, I go out there, I want to experience things firsthand. I'm not just limited to costume design. And if, people start to look into my work, they'll start to notice and to see too that I'm incorporating a variety of different artists and inspirations and textures and fabrics and also odds and end pieces. If I find something that I really love, and, that's what I can deliver creatively and uniquely to like a narrative script, and it's really cool when audiences really do start to notice, and get to create my own little world.
Wow. It sounds like when you talk about the McQueen driving over fabric, it makes me think of like the Bauhaus, where they're like, okay, we have to make it look a certain way. Okay, we'll just use whatever we have to do it.
Exactly. All of our resources. Cause that to me is really true art.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you give somebody $1 million, right? $1 million budget, and I gave it to you and I'm like, hey, can you go and create this line, right? You can buy anything or almost anybody, right? And create this, right? And not that there's anything wrong with this at all. There's movies that, like a Tim Burton movie and stuff too. And just the level of craftsmanship and teamwork that does have to come along with that, so in a way, not anybody could do it. It's just like sometimes it makes it easier. But when there was like where McQueen was at that time, where it really is about, okay, I have these resources, but that didn't stop him. And I feel like that's what's really important for, anybody who's new or, hitting like any kind of like creative walls, is to just stop, pause for a second and look around and figure out, what can I use as my paintbrush today to paint this picture? But the idea is start with something, and sometimes too, when in those moments, to me, that's like a true artist and really accentuating true creativity, but I have like a kombucha here, and I'm like, if I took this off and I dip this in some paint and then I start, hand painting a type of fabric, that's something you're probably not going to see if you walk into Nordstrom and you're looking for a certain dress, right? But lo and behold, little did they know, how much did that cost me? Maybe 50 cents in paint. But how great does this look and deliver? Because when things are less accessible and there's not as many, and it becomes more valuable and unique.
Yeah. Now, I would love to know, is there a particular movement or style of clothing that you really like throughout history that you're just like, oh, I love that? Is that your...
So many things. Like thank you. That's a great question, actually, because when I do travel like Europe, or even if I'm like, I love LA. I love, like, I went to a show the other night, and I'm just looking at what everybody's wearing. And what was really cool at this show was that they had a vintage setup where this guy was selling like random stuff. And I was like, that's so cool that they're doing this at a show and really watching like the culture. And I have a person in my life right now too. He's like introducing me to lots of like a past history of stuff, like 60s, 70s, and seeing like this whole, like, this new, I don't know that it's new, but for me, I'm newer to like seeing this world. But I walked into the show and everybody's dressed literally like you're out of like the 70s, like 70s rock. And there's like these girls with these cute little knee-high, little pantyhose and like cute shoes. And so I've really been enjoying like seeing that and seeing how they're doing their hair and their makeup, and people are putting an effort into this. And, it's a good reminder that there are no rules. It's really about finding our own inner happiness and expressing who we are. And, I really enjoy that. But I think for me, personally, I love when I watch a good Tim Burton movie, and it's like this really unique world of like these costumes that have like some period elements to them of the past, and the construction of that, but also some fantasy elements that the mixtures of the fabrics and then literally like it's a world, like even like Big Fish, like I just loved the scene in the end when they bring him and all of his character friends are out, and it's like, look, Dad, all your friends are here. And I feel like that's the world that I really live in for myself, and the roads that I journeyed into, like walking into that show and like seeing the people and just authenticity for me is like really important. So whatever that is, or whatever that looks like, that's something I definitely tune into.
Interesting. Now, you also said, because you travel a lot, so is there something that you saw in another culture that you're like, oh, that's amazing, and like you've sort of snuck for yourself or anything like that?
I love the British fashion. I love the Queen. I like all like more like the earlier McQueen, like when he first came out of Central St. Martin's, and he's literally like doing these fashion shows in the warehouse and out of different scraps, and then seeing what you're getting and the limited resources, but how unique and great and gritty and I just feel it, you know. I love the Vivienne Westwood punk era too that she did, you know, when she's literally taking shirts and like, it's just like, oh my gosh, like that's like now today it's more normalized, but thinking about back then and you know, those resources and the different types of fabrics. I really love that. I do love, let's see, as far as like cultural history, you know, Germany, you know, like when you see like the different costumes that they wear, it's but to them it's clothes. Like to us, because we're not really wearing that as much, it might look like more like a costume, you know. I love vintage clothing though too a lot, because I feel like even though we're in a modern contemporary world, when I see somebody really hit like a mark, you know, I mean, Italy is really nice too. Some days it really depends on my mood. Oh, and then let's go into Tokyo, Yoshi Yamamoto, right? Tokyo is its own world. So I guess my answer is endless. I can go on and on and on and on. And for me, it's like, I want to take a trip to Tokyo, and I want to like, you know, I want to go into that world. I love the Yoshi Yamamoto stuff. I love the simplicity, but I also love, it's a simplistic, like exaggerated also at times too, like an exaggerated lapel. So yeah, it's really about, I have an open mind and I'm ready to go there, you know, and I'm a sponge for information and for experiences.
Yeah. I have one last question for you. What would you say is your favorite guilty pleasure film or TV show to watch?
Okay. I get shy in saying this, but mine is, okay, so first off, I don't really watch too much TV or movies, like, but I do watch movies. Let me answer the question first, then I'll say it's because a movie popped up in my head, but it's not a guilty pleasure. It was a movie that I really, really loved, and I thought they just did it well done, which was Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. And I love the story. I got to sit in on a panel and hear about the process of how they made that movie with Todd Phillips, the director. And they started with the music, which is something that I do with my work. I listen to the music, and that helps me feel ideas and emotions and really get into the thought, you know, the vibe of the mood of what's happening. And I felt that when I saw that movie. So when I got to hear that, you know, the music was done first, I was like, wow, yes, I can feel that. I can see that. I can, you know, but as far as guilty pleasures, like, I don't want to tell anybody my secret. My secret TV show, when I'm like off work and I don't want to think and I just want to, you know, whatever, is the Kardashians. I know some people have mixed feelings, but it's one that, like, once I watch an episode, I want to see the next one. And, you know.
How weird is it that you know the outcome of Pete Davidson's relationship right now, but we're watching it? It's weird to like watch it in real time, like, or not real time, like you've seen it happen and you're like, oh, we get to see the inside dirt or whatever.
I know. Reality TV, that's the thing, is like, I do think, you know what though, I did love like the Osbournes when they did their show. I thought that was such a great fun show, and I think they were like one of the originators into the whole reality TV, and that I felt like was really awesome. But yeah, I mean, I actually I haven't really, it's not something I watch ongoing. It's more of like, you know, something that keeps it fun or lighthearted. I would say for me, what I watch on TV is football. That's my hobby. So it's opposite of what I do at work, but I was told early on, like, get a hobby so that I don't burn out, you know?
Yeah.
So,
well, now I do have a football question for you, and I was going to wait until we finished, because you said that your sister's up in Calgary. Do you ever watch the CFL whenever you're up there?
You know what? I haven't. I should. I'm an NFL person because I know the rules in and out.
Yeah.
I know the coaches and the players. Like Sean Payton just retired from the Saints, and
Yeah.
if somehow anybody watches this and ever, Sean Payton is one of the best coaches ever. Coached under Bill Parcells. Every coach that coached under Bill Parcells went on and won a Super Bowl ring. Tom Coughlin, Bill Belichick, Sean Payton. You know.
Yeah.
So it's like I keep my eyes on that. It's just so much fun, but I'm open to checking it out. You know, I definitely know in order. I'm like when I tune in on something, I wholeheartedly do it.
Yeah.
You know? So I'll have to learn the rules of it's CFL.
Yeah. Well, it's 3 downs instead of 4. So it's more of a passing game than it is a running game.
Wow.
So yeah, and it's a small league, so there's only 9 teams.
Oh, cool.
And so basically their slogan for the last couple of years is "No lead is safe" because the scores are always so close.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would encourage the Grey Cup to try and check that out because that's usually a really close game.
The Grey Cup.
Yeah.
Okay, I will. Absolutely 2000%. I see this is the thing. This is what I love about life is like we all learn through each other and then, you know, take that step and take the journey and have the experience, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm so excited. So 8 or 9 teams. Now my brain is marinating on this.
Yeah.
It's so cool. CFL. And then do they throw it like,
oh yeah.
It's all like
it's basically the same as the NFL, just 3 downs, the field's wider. The goalposts are at the front of the end zone.
Oh, wow.
And we have things called rouges. So which is kind of a throwback to rugby so basically if you get the ball you can kick it.
Oh wow.
But it's not really done except for in like certain situations.
Got it. So it's kind of like an onside kick.
Yeah.
So okay, got it. So I think I could probably pick up on this pretty quickly, but I'm very excited. When is CFL football season?
It starts in April.
Oh, cool.
It started like the preseason's April and then goes June is when it officially starts. And then the Grey Cup is in November.
Oh, this is perfect. Yeah. So this will keep me going with football year round. Wait till August for preseason. September, you know, is the official. And then we end up around January, beginning of February. So then I can hop over and get into the CFL and go.
Well, I'm always interested when I hear if people are fans of NFL, what they think of the 3 down method, because it changes the game quite a bit.
Yeah. So I can't wait to see that. That was the first thing I thought of too. I was like, 3 downs. I wonder what that looks like, because is it similar to, because on the 4th down you can either kick it for a field goal or you punt it back, right? Or
same
if
thing.
they want to be creative, then they can try to get like if they're off by a yard or whatever, trying to get the 1st down. Okay.
Yeah, same thing, but they only have 3 downs, so they basically go 2, and so it moves a lot faster because of that.
Yeah, that's so cool. Who's your team?
So it's kind of tricky because I have family across the country and they all support different teams. And I was born in one side of the country, moved to the other side. So I support the league. So whoever gets to the Grey Cup is the team I usually like. Whoever's family member is there is the one I support. But I'm in Toronto, so I usually support the Argos.
Nice. Yeah. That's awesome. I'm gonna have to start watching and checking out the players. Yeah. I like to watch, you know, like right now Saints are typically my team, but you know, Drew Brees and Sean Payton have both left, and that left me kind of sad. And you know, I'm like, what's happening with the quarterback? I wish they would have drafted somebody, or they could play Tatum Hill a little bit more. But I think he got injured. But I love Alvin Kamara, the running back. So I'm just kind of floating this season, and you know, like now, like with LA, there is the Rams, and kind of keeping my eye out there. But there's also new teams like the Bills has like a young, cool quarterback, and then there's Mahomes over with the Chiefs, and he's really good. So I'm curious to see what they do. So this year I'm just kind of sitting back and watching, and then crossing my fingers that Sean Payton will come back in the league next year.
Yeah.
And that way I kind of go over there. I have my guesses. I'm guessing he might go to Dallas, but all of that stuff, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I just kind of keep my eyes on it, but keep the focus in the game. But now I'm going to start checking out some Canadian football and checking out the players and develop my my team, you know. Yeah. I like the underdogs though, too.
Yeah.
That's why I like the Saints. We were definitely the underdogs, and they built that team from the bottom up.
Well, that's the best story is an underdog story, right? Because that's what you want. So
totally.
Well, thank you.
Kind of
thank
my
you.
Story.
Yeah.
And McQueen. Yeah.
Thank you so much for letting me interview you today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
And that's it for this week, everyone. Make sure to check us out at filmmakeru.com. And of course, follow us on Twitter at filmmaker_u. I'm Gordon Burkell. Thanks for watching. Today's episode of Filmmaker U is brought to you by our sponsors, OWC. Go to owcdigital.com for all your filmmaking and computer needs. And it's also brought to you by our other sponsors, AJA. Make sure to check out aja.com so that you can see how they can help you in your post-production needs.